Breakthrough Artists with CJ Lloyd-Webber.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Breakthrough Artist. I am here today with the wonderful Aarushi Thakur-Rana, who is a theatre director, professional theatre director, writer, and actor. She's currently based in the United Kingdom. She'll be talking to us a lot about her experience and what she's been up to as of late. But she's got such a vast array of experience. She's amazing on social media. I'm watching her in awe of the stuff she comes up with. I don't even know where she is half of the time. But without going kind of through all of her credentials, she has worked on she's been in the theatre industry for more than 10 years. She's worked on plays. She's translated major works for William Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night, and Romeo and Juliet. But she's also worked on various shows. So I actually watched a video on YouTube recently where you featured, and you talked about your dad and his experience in the theatre industry. Was that something that kind of spurred you into the arts?
Definitely, because my dad, he's a theater artist himself. He's a writer. He's a playwright. He's written books and plays, and he's a director himself. And he's the highest civilian. So there's a very important award in India which is called the Padma Shri. It means. So that award is given to people who excel in their, it's the only award, like the biggest award that you get in India.
Wow.
So he has received that in 2013, which was very, very inspiring for me. Even before that, like as I was growing up, my dad was like my biggest inspiration. I used to like travel with him wherever he would go and watch plays throughout my life and watch different artists, different directors. And I've seen him work so hard. So he has kind of like he's always been that inspiration to me, and I never thought that I would be pursuing theater. I did my masters in international politics. I was a very bright student. I had scored like 90s and stuff like that,
Wow.
and everybody in the family thought she would, how you have this perception if you're scoring that
Yeah.
well in a particular subject, pursue that rather than doing, arts or being involved in the creative industry. But when I came to the UK to do my master's in 2013, before that I was just doing doing theatre as a hobby. But when I came here, there was one thing I realized in the UK that people pay a lot of importance to theater in terms of like it is a very important part of your life. Back in India, it is, people like doing theater, but they like doing theater because they want to be in Bollywood. They use theater as a tool to get into the. However, here I saw this switch between people really giving you that respect because you're a theater person or you're involved in the arts. And I did a workshop with Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts here in London, and then I went back to India, and I was like, okay, let me try and direct a play because I know theater as a hobby. I enjoy doing it. Let me for fun. Let me try to write something, and if I'll see how I do. So I tried to adapt this one. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. That was my first play. So I was a 19, 20-year-old trying to take up this big classic and adapt it into like a smaller play. I did that, and I still remember, CJ, like, no word a lie. I was sitting in the auditorium watching my own show, and I just felt my soul like come out of it. Like, it was such a surreal experience. I loved it. I mean, felt so good, like every reaction from the audience, every little clap, every laugh, every like sigh from them would make me so happy. And when it ended and everybody like stood up and started, it was a studio performance. It was done for a very small audience for like 50 to 60 people. But like the amount of happiness I felt doing that thing, presenting my show on stage was, I have never felt that before. And that's when I thought, this is what I want to do for forever. I can never stop doing this. And maybe I'm good at it. Maybe I am bad at it. it doesn't matter. I enjoy it, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
Well,
Success or failure, those.
yeah, well, that's a really interesting
Sorry.
point. So, I mean, that experience working on that Charles Dickens play, was that your first experience of directing? Had it only really been kind of performance up until that point?
Yes, up until that time, I was just acting. I was just an actor. I would learn my lines, do my like perform my character, understand the role, and it was a totally different experience. But direction and writing it's so much more because when you're a director, it's totally your vision of the whole story. It's
Yeah.
your perception of the story.
Mm.
You're like the master of it. You can mold it whichever way you want to do it, and that's what I felt. I felt like the master of the product that I have.
Yeah.
It just felt really good. It just felt really, really fulfilling.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because I know we had the conversation, I mean, I've been on your live anyway, but we'd had a conversation recently because we both work at the Birmingham Rep. So I'll talk a little bit about, I want to talk a little bit about your experience of working at the Rep and what your role kind of involves there, and what your hopes and aspirations are, whilst you're in that role. Um, but the conversation we had was about kind of some of the, I guess, the frustrations that a lot of artists feel with the theatre industry and with the industry as a whole, that they're not getting opportunities and things like that. What's your kind of take on that? Do you think that the arts is kind of a space where you have to make opportunities for yourself, or is it something that you should really just wait for your time? How do you kind of see that?
You definitely have to make your opportunities because especially with the new platform, with the social platforms that we have, like the internet, YouTube, and Instagram and TikTok and whatever, these platforms are so handy. And when I say I'm a writer, when I say I'm a content creator, when I say I'm a playwright, I know I can't put up a play on YouTube, but what I can do is I can create that creative content, and I can spread it to whoever I want to spread it. Obviously, it would take time for people to get that recognition. It does take time, like anything does, and like you said, we both work at this really big organization, the Birmingham Rep, and it's a very it's the kind of organization that has helped a lot of people grow in their art and like has given people lots of opportunities, because I think this is the only theater in the Birmingham that has a door, that has a studio, that has a big commercial
Mm.
house. So I think, having said that, obviously the big commercial house is something for like these commercial writers and directors to come in and put a musical on and have a big show. But
Yeah.
the door is that kind of space where new and young and experimental artists can think of experimenting, can have that dream of having a stage show, just like I had when I was like a 20-year-old. And to have like to have that dream and to have that space is more than good enough. Like in my head, I think that there would be a day that I will write a script for the Birmingham Rep, and
Hmm.
I will present it to Maddie, who looks after the door and the performances that come there, and I would like I need to present that kind of work to
Hmm.
her to be
Yeah,
there.
of course.
But at least have that space. At least you, or anybody, or any aspiring artist, or any aspiring writer has that space, and it is very
Mm.
important. And before I used to work at the Hippodrome, and when I came to England, it's just been 4 years. When I came to England, I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I'm a big playwright, and I'm this director, and I have so much experience, and I have 8, 9 experience of, I've written so many plays, I've translated like really big classics. I came here and I was like, I sat on an interview, and I wouldn't want to name the person. He's a very nice guy. He was a he was sitting in a very big position, and he said, "I know, Aarushi, you have such good experience. You've showed us some videos and you've showed us pictures and whatnot, but this experience doesn't count because that experience is not here in the UK. So we can't really offer you the role. We really like you, we think you're amazing, we totally trust you, and we understand your frustration, but we can't offer you a role because your experience is not in our country.
And what
And
role was
I
that?
was
That you?
at that
What
at
type
that
of
that
role
was a
was that?
productions role.
Okay.
It was a productions role, and I had been on, you can't even imagine how big productions I have done back in India. I've done
Mm.
productions like open air productions where 10,000 people like sit and watch a show. So I had that kind of experience. But when I sat on that interview, when I told them that, they were like, "Yeah, we like that, but we are so sorry we can't offer you the role." And instead, what they offered me was a volunteering role in the same in the arts team, and they said, would you want to do a volunteering role? And when I got that email, I told my husband, I was like, what is that? Like, I don't
Mm.
I don't want to do a volunteering role because I am this big star in my head. And he was like, no, that's not how it is, because you have to prove yourself.
So you got that email, and it basically said, we appreciate all the stuff you've done in India, but this is a different environment, and they sent you a
Yeah.
voluntary role via
They offered
email.
me a volunteering role, and they said that we really want to have you here because we want you to be a part of our team. But we if you work with us, we'll see your experience and we see where it goes, and then we'll see. So I worked with them for a few months, and luckily they really liked my role, and they offered me a position. They offered me a contract. So I worked with them, and that's where I got to know about the rep. They said that because you're so much interested in writing and doing your own thing, and you want to be a playwright, why don't you apply to the rep? Why don't you get into that door? Get that foot in, and then kind of like establish some relationships with people out there, and then maybe in the future you write something for them. So that's when I applied to the rep. I am
Mm.
now working in the marketing team. I didn't know I would ever work for the marketing team, because back in India, what we do is, if you're working on a production, you are doing everything. Big production or small production,
Yeah.
if you're the director, you literally do everything for it. So I had a lot of marketing experience because of the kind of roles that I had done back in India. Um, and I just fit in, and I'm actually enjoying my role here. Having said that, I am
Yeah.
going to at more like creative stuff. Like I want to like, as a freelancer, I have worked with like I've worked with someone in London, and I did a performance. I did two performances in London. So what I'm thinking is now I'm about to write a comedy, and I'm just going to say it here in this platform. I haven't told anyone. So I'm researching on a comedy. So before that, I was thinking of writing something about like something more classic, but then I thought, let me write something more Asian. Let me write something about my people, so that it's more authentic,
Yeah.
it's more real. So I'm going to
Yeah.
write an Asian comedy about divorce in an Asian family. So it's a big deal. You cannot break a marriage in India. It's too hard. So
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
stereotypes behind it, the whole, the element of feminism, that women have to compromise and that
Mm.
kind of stuff. So the story revolves around, and it's also a kind of like a satire on arranged marriages, which is an alien concept in the West, but a very common
Yeah.
concept in the East. So if you know what Asian arranged marriages are, so it's your parents deciding a partner
Mhm.
for you. So they literally pick a person for you and say, oh, this is the kind of, like, you need to marry him or you need to marry her, and then you get
Mhm.
married.
Was
So
that your experience?
I
Was
have
that
a
your experience? Your
I have
personal
a
experience?
I have a marriage. However, it wasn't my experience wasn't like that, because we spoke for 2 years and then
Mm.
we decided to get married. It was suggested by the
Yeah.
family, but then obviously the modern Indian families, they don't have that arranged marriage concept. They can suggest you, but it's your decision whether you want to get married or not. However,
Mm.
there are few marriages that are still kind of like arranged by the
Well, that,
family.
well, that sounds like a really interesting concept. I guess it is a concept, but it's also reality, isn't it? Because like people won't really know about that side of things because it's kind of seldom voiced, isn't it? And to find the humor in that, quite serious subject,
Yeah.
is what it's all about.
When I started writing, I used to, like, for some reason, I used to pick up subjects that were really, dark to an extent. They were very, like, serious and dark and that kind of stuff. I used to, because I wanted, like, in my head, as a theater artist, I wanted to create some change in the society, like something little, if I can provide to the society. However, my outlook of looking at things was like, oh, let me present something really serious, and then people are going to be like, oh my God, this is so true, and then I'm going to change from tonight. It's not going to happen. So later on, like my later performances were more of
Mm,
like comedy, and with that comedy came sarcasm. With that comedy came awareness. People would laugh at that joke, but they would be like, oh my God, like that's funny, but like, oh, that's true. So you can feed them that
yeah.
comedy, make it very entertaining, and still spread that message. So this is what I'm thinking with new script, that it would be a good
Mm,
message for everyone, and at the same time it would be fun, it would be entertaining, it would sell
mm,
tickets. So that's my idea, like, to feel
mm,
like I need people to watch it, to understand the Asian culture, to understand. So when I come to
yeah.
the office, like, my experience of coming to the office is totally different from a white girl coming to the office, because I live in a joint family. I live with my parents-in-law. I live with my husband,
Mm,
with my brother-in-law,
mm,
sister-in-law. So imagine 8 people living together, and I have a totally different experience from anybody else. So it's important for them to
mm,
understand that, and if they can understand it with the help of this play, it would
yeah.
solve so many
Yeah.
issues.
Just, you're speaking to the people who the play is about, the people that go through that, but you're also, through that and through the comedic form, you're educating others as well who will come and watch the piece. So that's really interesting. I was really interested in what you were saying actually about the idea of opportunity, because of course you're working in an establishment, the only producing theatre in Birmingham, but at this time you haven't been able to kind of get your work on, and I resonate with that because of course I don't know if a lot of people know, but I moved away to London for a couple of years, and that was as a result of just feeling like I couldn't get the opportunities here. And then it was ironic that when I came back, that's when I started to get opportunities. So is it a thing now where you're kind of in that space of, yes, you love working where you're working, but it is that kind of creative side of you that you need to tap into a little bit more, so it's looking for opportunities to do that.
Definitely, and CJ, when I say that I want to look for opportunities, it's because that I have not kind of like searched that area as of now, and I wanted to create something before I step into being like, oh, I really want to do this, but then somebody goes like, oh, but what do you want to do? So I want to create something first. I want to write something first, make it perfect. You know how long it takes to write things.
Mm,
Not
mm,
like it's not like that easy. You have to research on these things. You have to be politically correct, especially nowadays. Writing a play, like 10 years down the lane, like,
mm,
I don't know what's going to happen. And 10 years before, it was way easier. But now, if you're writing a play, you have to be politically correct. You have to make sure you're not, offending anyone. So especially with these cultural plays where you're talking about a community or a culture, I need to be politically correct. So that's my plan. I need to research well, and then I'm going to look for opportunities, because if I am not prepping
mm,
myself 100%. I can't
mm,
expect, can't sit down here and think that, oh, somebody's going to come up to me and be like, oh, Arushi, I have heard you're a
mm,
playwright. Like, I'm gonna produce your
yeah,
show, but like, where is your script? And that's why, CJ, like, I really admire the fact that you are this writer. You've established yourself. You're doing such good work. But having done that, you're also inspiring some new writers to get up and write. And I recently saw a short video from you, which said that you just have to get up and pull up your socks and write. And it's very important to have encouragement. And on social media, I mean, people have used this tool to kind of help so many people, and you're doing a great job at that. It's very important. And your videos have inspired me a lot. And I'm not lying because you're doing this interview. I'm not trying to impress, but it's true. And that was the main reason that I did your interview in the first place when we had that conversation last year. It's because like I saw your work. I saw, okay, CJ is this director. He's the director of Flight Post, and he's done Constructed, and it's a good show. But then I was like, he's also a man who's helping people, just general people, like anybody, to like you're inspiring so many people. So it's good you're telling about your journey. It's good you're telling them about your failures. It's good you're talking openly about it. And it's important. It's so much important. I have suffered so much criticism when I was working in India. It's very hard to be a woman director in India. um, a lot perceive women in India as somebody who just support the family, or somebody who's just a daughter, somebody who's just a wife, who's just a mom. So we have roles to play. However, if you, and it's very hard to be independent woman in India, where when you're walking on the street, you're not safe. And I don't want to say this on a public platform. It's the harsh reality of our country. It's
I mean, I mean, what's so true. It's like that here as well, isn't it? You know, a lot of women don't feel safe at night around here. So these are issues that are very
that
important to speak about. You know.
and you know what, like I was like yesterday, I was working on a press night, so we finished late. I got home at 11 p.m. I was sitting in the train. There was like nobody in the train, like, so like my train is, it's just 15 minutes away from my work, so not very long. But I was sitting in the train. There was no one there, and I felt fine. I felt safe, like, to be honest. Like, I didn't feel unsafe. But I was just thinking, I could never do that in India. I could never be on a train, be on a public transport at 11 p.m. Oh my God, it's like if my mom finds out I was in a train in England at 11 p.m., she would be like, what? Like, oh my God, don't ever do that. But it's
Mm,
true. You have, like, by the time it's dark in India, you don't feel safe to just be on the road. And
mm,
that's the reality. And imagine working in that environment. Imagine working with that fear, that constant fear, that and you know how much
mm.
rehearsal, like how long rehearsals take. You can't just produce a
Yeah,
play, like,
yeah.
have to like sit through and just do those brainstorm, like rehearse and blocking and all that stuff. Like, you have to be there, and it's difficult. It's very difficult. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel that it's less difficult here because people are more understanding. They're more liberal. They're more open-minded. But it's like I
Mm,
wouldn't criticize my country. Like, sitting here now, it's very easy to say, oh, like I am what I am because of my country today. I'm I'm definitely not criticizing. Like, there's no one to blame. It's the whole system, and it's some bad people who kind of like make it difficult for everybody else. But like, some things that I can do here, I could never do that back in India. I could never like think of doing them, like traveling at night, or like wearing certain clothes. It's the perception out there is very different from what it is here. So I feel that it's here I have that positive point. I have that encouragement. I can work at night. I can work till 10 p.m., finish my rehearsal, and go back home
yeah.
safely. I have that here. So I would, if I'm not using that opportunity, it would be my failure. Because if I could do it there with less resources, with less, uh, things that were available to me, and people to support, if I could do it there, I can do it here.
Mm. That's such a great point. I think as well, just touching on what you were saying, it seems like it's more about paying homage to where you come from through your work and through your directing and your writing practice, you want to be able to showcase, you know, the experiences of those who come from where you come from. And that's, it's very much similar to me in that, you know, I write a lot about the fact that, you know, I grew up on a council estate in Erdington, and, you know, the people that I grew up around don't seem to really be represented on stage. And so that's kind of my, you know, key point of interest. And it seems like yours is very much about, you know, yes, I'm here, I'm working, but I had a whole experience in India. I know the experiences of those who are out there. I know the experiences of those who are here, and I want to be able to tell those stories. And so, for you,
Yeah.
what are kind of the next steps for you? Is it to get onto kind of playwriting programs, to write things, to be meeting with, you know, people like Maddie on a more frequent basis? What's kind of the next steps for you?
I think next step definitely for me would be researching a bit more about. So I know a lot about my experience and people I interact with. I know a lot about their experiences, especially people who have just come from a different country, like immigrants, or like have just come here to settle, or in one way or the other. So I know a lot about them, but I want to know more. I want to know more stories. I want to like get into these groups where people can like openly talk about their experiences, good and bad, both. And with those experiences, I want to build a story which kind of like touches someone, which even if it moves like one person, even if even if my story kind of like, for example, I like I said, like I want people to understand how living in a joint family is different from living in a nuclear
Mm,
family, and what the person, for example, if I am asked to stay back on a on a Thursday, if I'm asked to stay back for a show, what my experience would be, how my experience would be different from somebody who's a white person. They would just need to call one person and say, "Oh, I can't come home today," but I might have to call like 10 people and let them know that I'm safe and I'm fine and I'm okay. And so you know how culturally we are
mm,
different, and it's very important to understand that, because if you employ someone in your big company, you need to understand them. You know, all these equality and diversity just on the paper, it's not good
mm,
enough. It's not helping anyone.
mm,
Do you think anything has changed ever since we have had so many committees and so many uh, whatnot?
mm,
Like how many forms you must have filled? But like, has anything changed? No, it hasn't. My husband, he works a lot on equality and diversity. So he is a senior lecturer in a university, and he does a lot of research work for you know, BAME
mm,
network, and how like how they score and how like the difficulties are, and whatnot. And when he's like, whenever we discuss this, and I want to do something similar in the theater
mm.
industry, because theater is that tool that, as an audience, when you're sitting there, you will listen to
Yeah.
everything. You will have open ears. And if people like you and people like me with these experiences, if we can share something with the
Mm,
audience, I think it will make a difference, rather than just
yeah.
doing that paperwork and saying, or trainings for
Mm,
that matter, or lots of trainings that we have done. It's they're not doing any
yeah.
good. People do that training, it's just a tick
Yeah.
off, and
Yeah.
then they move on. We need to share, we need experiences, we need to tell everyone about us, and it's all about sharing
Yeah.
stories. Isn't that what life is all about? I need to know your story to understand you. You need to understand my story, and we need to
Yeah.
coexist. And to coexist, we need to respect each other. We need to respect each other's
Yeah.
values, and that's what I want to do with the new production that I am thinking of doing.
Amazing. Well, you're not thinking of doing it. You are going to do it, and I'll make sure you get it done. But no, that's such a good point. And I think there is a difference between, you know, you don't necessarily have to agree with everything, but there needs to be an element of respect there, because that's the whole point of being different. That we all have, you know, choices that we can make, but we don't have to be disrespectful, and we need to identify when we are crossing the line. And that's what I think these training sessions are not always honing in on. They're very much kind of like, okay, have we done this? Yes, as you say. tick box exercises. But I guess on a more positive note, I did want to say that what you have done is so inspiring. I know there's people in this country that have not been able to even get their foot in the door at all, and that's literally the door at the rep, but also like just get into the theatre industry. They don't seem to know how to do that. So the fact that you've got in there, you're having conversations with the right people, and now you're taking this next step to put your work on. I think that's an amazing testimony. But what would you say to someone who is coming from, let's say for your experience, they're coming from a different country and they want to pursue a career in the arts over here? What's the first thing you would tell them to do?
I think I would simply say, like, and I say this to everyone, like, never stop
Mm,
dreaming. Never stop imagining that great things will come your way. Because you know what happens is when we stop dreaming, we are already, we lost the battle because we kind of like, we're like, oh, I don't think this will ever happen to me. Don't ever think that. Keep on dreaming. Dream big. It just sounds like a big cliche, but it
mm,
is true. I have come from a country. I had to start from scratch. I had to start on a
mm,
volunteering role, and now I'm sitting here. I'm doing like a permanent role. I'm working in the marketing team. I'm sharing my ideas. Like I give them like big ideas to like sell shows. I think I'm doing a, a great deal for
mm,
myself. But if I stop dreaming now, I think I'll
mm.
never grow. And that's why I want to move on to the
Yeah.
next step. Keep doing what I'm doing, excel at it. And along with that, I want to do something else. I just think like 24 hours are not enough
Yeah,
in a day to do it, but it
absolutely.
has to be done for the passion, just for.
And what's kind of next with the social media as well? Because you're doing some amazing stuff on there. How do you batch create your content? How do you create so much amazing content that's high quality and
Of course, I
mm,
batch create, and sometimes it's more like, oh, I like something, I think about something, I just write it down and I
mm,
just post it. It is very time consuming because it was last year in August that I actually started thinking of Instagram as more than just me putting a picture
mm,
of myself. I thought like Instagram is like a proper marketing tool. So I started reviewing like some food items that I enjoyed, or like I started reviewing like some restaurants. And last August, I got an offer from one of like there was a bubble tea place, and they just offered me. They were like, "Oh, would you like to
wow.
come and try our new bubble tea for free and just post a picture on your Instagram?" And that kind of like start the ball
Mm,
rolling. And then I started getting invites. I started like focusing my Instagram like to more towards like food and fashion and something about theater. So I that's what my name is on Instagram: food, fashion, theater, because I'm passionate about all things. Uh, yeah, it's fun. It's just for
yeah,
fun. There's no like I don't have like a vision for it, but I want to use this as a positive platform, and I just want to like if my post can help someone to get information, or like to know how they can style their clothes, or to just like know which restaurants are best to eat in. It's just for
yeah.
information. It's just for fun. Just fun.
And that's amazing. I mean, I think what you're doing is brilliant and it's truly inspiring. I know a lot of people are interested in the social media side, so I'll definitely advocate for them to follow you. But you've mentioned your Instagram is food fashion theatre. Is it food underscore fashion underscore theatre?
Food underscore fashion underscore theater, and I usually check my DMs. I don't get many. Oh, I do. But yeah, you can always message me there. But if not, if it's for anything more professional, then my email address is Thakur dot Aarushi Aarushi 18 so 18 at gmail.com. So, or you can get in touch with CJ, who can get in touch with me.
Yeah, of course. Amazing. I
And
mean, I'll put all of that information at the bottom of the video anyway.
have to work on a performance together. We have to I admire you as a writer, and I like admire you generally as a person because you're doing so well. So it's important for us to connect and in the future maybe work on something.
Of course, yeah, always open for collaboration. You're in the rehearsal room at the moment, which I forgot to mention. I was actually supposed to come to the rep and film this live, but technical difficulties, so we've kept it online. But we'll definitely do something in person, even if it's doing a little showcase in the rehearsal room. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. But yeah, it's been absolutely amazing speaking with you. I look forward to catching up with you in person. And thank you, everyone who has tuned in to the Breakthrough Artists. Until next time, peace and love. Take care.